So a 2-year suspended sentence for Bernard Laporte and more bad news for World Rugby. And I thought you were going to score.
Ask a better question, you get a better answer.
Hi guys, welcome back. So reacting in this video to some major news breaking today, World Rugby's Vice Chairman Bernard Laporte has been sentenced by a French court to 2 years suspended prison sentence for corruption. Now, I want to react to this, but really I want to know your reaction to this, because this really is rocking the rugby world at the moment. And World Rugby gets a lot of flack already, and some deserve for sure, and this is not going to help. Now, World Rugby comes in for a lot of flack all the time, some of it deserved, of course. I mean, I hold on to the possibly naive idea that most of the officials in World Rugby do have the best interest of the game at hand, but when there's so much money at stake as well, then maybe some aren't just in it for the best of the game and they're in it for personal gain as well. Maybe I'm naive, I understand that as well, but I like to hold on to that belief. Now, like me, many of you would have been following the alleged trail of corruption in the awarding of the FIFA Football World Cup to Qatar, and now we've got a similar sort of story around rugby. It's not good at all, it really is a bit depressing. So we're going to go through some of the key points from the report. This one's from the Guardian newspaper. And just a note that a suspended prison sentence is one where they actually don't go to prison, provided they don't commit further offences and they comply with the requirements. But yes, it does mean it goes on their criminal record. So let's have a look here. World Rugby has been thrown into crisis with Bernard Laporte suspending himself as vice chairman. It's quite ironic, I guess you could say, it's the right thing to do for him to suspend himself, but probably someone else probably should have suspended him first. But anyway, he suspended himself from World Rugby and he's been given this 2-year suspended prison sentence, which we've just discussed, and fined €75,000 by a French court as he is found guilty of corruption charges. Now, I must note it does go on to say they're passive corruption charges, which are slightly different, kind of allowing things to happen, but they're still corruption charges. And then we have this verdict coming just 9 months before France hosting the World Cup. Now, there is a bit of a cloud over that. Yes, it is 9 months. Can World Rugby go some way to try and dispel some of that cloud? Maybe, but it's definitely not what you want coming up to your major world event. Now, World Rugby, they've got an emergency meeting coming on Tuesday, and they're going to decide what they're going to do, what further action World Rugby are going to do, and surely they're going to do something. Now, Bernard Laporte is also the president of the French Rugby Federation, and he was found guilty over influencing, peddling and illegally acquiring assets, including one relating to a $1.5 million jersey sponsorship contract for the national team, awarded to a friend and the billionaire owner of the top 14 champions Montpellier, that is Ultrad. Now, Bernard Laporte is going to appeal this decision, but as it stands, he's been convicted and also he's been banned from rugby activity for 2 years. Now, he was the running mate, of course, with Bill Beaumont, who is the current chairman, so that's not good by association. We're not saying Bill Beaumont's done anything wrong, but certainly when your running mate gets convicted of corruption, that's not a great look. That was the 2020 election and Bill Beaumont's got 2 more years to run on that, so that puts him in a tricky position as well. Now, the Rugby World Cup next year in France already had a bit of a cloud over it as their chief executive was dismissed, was sacked for overseeing an alleged climate of terror, which isn't great, to be honest. Now, Ultrad, meanwhile, was sentenced to an 18-month suspended jail sentence and fined €50,000. Now, the Ultrad group sponsored quite a lot in rugby. They sponsored the 2021 Women's World Cup. They've also signed a big deal for the jersey sponsor for the All Blacks, so not good at all. And for a bit more background, in 2017, Laporte had agreed to appear in Ultrad conferences and was paid €180,000 for reproducing his image rights, so not bad. And later that year, he signed a sponsorship with Ultrad. An agreement was renewed in 2018. Additionally, Laporte was accused of interfering on Ultrad's behalf in a disciplinary matter. So this is this passive corruption we're talking about, where he's kind of letting things happen that shouldn't happen. Now, I guess you could say the positive is that the corruption's been uncovered and acted on, albeit by the French court and not World Rugby yet. And it's going to be interesting to see what action World Rugby take, if any. I'm sure they're going to do something to try and reassure the world of rugby that this type of corruption is not widespread. Now, whatever happens is pretty murky, and it certainly doesn't help World Rugby's reputation, which is already not that great. And it will throw some dirt at the Rugby World Cup. They've got 9 months to try and rescue that, but it's certainly not a good look. Now, the last thing I'd like to know your opinion on is the old adage, rugby has a higher moral standing than football. Is that still true? Stories like this certainly don't help. as rugby's turned professional, it's more likely you're going to get these cases of corruption as you get more and more money into the game. And for me, it's a case of, were there checks and balances in place to hold power to account? In this story, it looks like no, there's not. So that's the question I'd like answered by World Rugby. What would your questions be to World Rugby? What's your take on this story? I'd love to know, and I'll catch you next time.